Morning, everyone. I am Hank Philippi Ryan, and I am here on Instagram and I think live here on Facebook. If someone will tell me that I'm live on Facebook. Hey, Jen. Hey, Glennie. Hey, Alpesson. Hey, two babes. So nice to see you. Yes, you do need this book. Hey, Wendy. I'm hoping I'm on Facebook as well. Let me see it there. It looks like this is always the moment every Thursday when I think maybe this is the day that the cameras won't work and I won't be live. So I am trying to make this work on Instagram and on Facebook, and there I am on Facebook. I think it's up now, so that's fantastic. Let me see if I can see your comments. Oh, good morning, Shannon. Okay, so now, there we go. That's a better situation. Welcome to First Chapter Fun. This is the place where every Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 11:30 a.m., days that begin with T, Hannah Mary McKinnon and I will read you the first chapter of a new book. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Lisa. I'm seeing who's on. Hey, Glennie. Thank you for telling me that I'm live. This configuration today, which is new on Facebook, means that I can't see your comments on Facebook, so I will have to peer around and look at them at some point, so that's good. I see Lisa and I see so many other people waving back. Hi, Daisy. I just sent you a book, Daisy. I hope that you get it soon. So welcome, 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 welcome to Hannah on Instagram. Welcome to Hannah on Facebook. So nice to see you this morning. Wow, we are on episode 83 of First Chapter Fun. 83, which is kind of crazy to think about. And if you're counting on the other thing, I think I've made 157 or 8 dinners in a row now. So here we are all in this together. And I'm so pleased to be with you all here today. How are you doing? How are your lives? Do you have gardens? We have a little tiny baby garden with two tomato plants, and one of them is just going crazy. It's like the tomato plant that ate Chicago, and it's just producing these glorious golden little tiny tomatoes that we eat just warmed from the sun. And that is one of the joys of our lives these days, going out and looking at the back 40 for the tomatoes. And here indeed is Jenn McKinlay, who is joining us on Instagram, and this is her book that we're reading today. Paris is Always a Good Idea. An absolutely endearing, charming, heartwarming, thought-provoking. It'll make you laugh and cry. This is such a wonderful book, and I can't wait to read you just a little bit of it. So welcome, 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 all of you on Instagram and all of you on Facebook, to this great day for, if you love Sleepless in Seattle, and if you love When Harry Met Sally, and if you love French Kiss, and all those wonderful sort of journeys to happiness. That's what Paris is Always a Good Idea is about. Wasn't it Audrey Hepburn who said Paris is always a good idea, or Grace Kelly, somebody like that? Jenn McKinlay, she'll know. Somebody like that, whether it's Grace or Audrey, we don't care, or Jenn McKinlay, it is true. Paris is always a good idea, and I wish someday we would have the First Chapter Fun expedition to Paris. That would be fun. But today we can go only via the book. So quickly, let me say again, this is number 83 of First Chapter Fun, which is amazing. If you missed versions 1 through 82, episodes 1 through 82, you can go back on Facebook in our videos or on Instagram at IGTV and look through every single delicious one of those first chapters and select to see which of the books are one that you would like to take home and have for your lucky selves to read the whole thing of. So Hannah Mary McKinnon and I, every Tuesday and Thursday, just give you a tiny first little taste of the book. And we know that they'll be so tantalizing and so tempting that you'll want to go on. It's one of the reasons Hannah decided to do this at the beginning is that it's just so difficult now, isn't it, in the situation that we're in, to be in a bookstore or find out about new books and discover a new book and figure out what your friends are reading and what your friends are loving. And so Hannah's idea was to use Instagram and use Facebook to share info, to share knowledge, to share our delights, to share our new books. Everybody's new books, not just ours, but everybody's new books, to give you a chance to get to know some new authors and get to know some new books. Hey, Janet. Hey, Amy Marie. Hey, Al says we. Yes, we will all have to brush up on our French. I'm looking at the good morning, Beth. Excited for this, Beth says. Jenn is one of my favorite authors. You can see that my Facebook now is set up not to let me see the comments, which is always an interesting configuration. So I'll look again. Hannah says, good morning, Katie Tallow, Jill Montgomery, both of whose books we read. This is so nice that we have this great roster of author friends now who, after we read their first chapters, they come back. And they're pals now. And that means you can talk to them too, which is great, because if you want to ask a question of any of our authors, Jenn McKinlay, who's here today for Paris, is always a good idea, or any of the other authors who are here visiting from time to time, please leave them a note. Please leave them a comment. On Facebook, okay, so another quirk, on Facebook, the comments remain forever and Facebook ever. So put your comments, ask your questions to Jenn and to any other authors in Facebook in the comments. On Instagram, somehow they disappear as soon as we put the episode on IGTV. So there's an Instagram quirk for you that we are battling to get that fixed. So if you have a question for the author, please do that. Please leave it. Please leave it on Facebook, where it will stay, and on Instagram. Jenn is saying, yes, questions welcomed. So welcome to you. If we get booted, you know the drill. It's our fault, not yours, and we will start the episode over on the platform that dumps us out. So don't worry about that. Just get a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a little bit of lemonade, and come back, and we will make good for you. So do not worry. You will hear the whole first chapter of Paris is a Good Idea, or any other thing that we do. Hannah is saying, I'm so thankful to authors and publishers for allowing us to read for you. Yeah, isn't that great? They wouldn't have had to do it, and they, Beth and Susan says she's packed and ready for Paris this morning. Yes, we are. I do remember traveling. I just spoke to a group of airline industry executives talk about having a difficult situation, and they are trying to make it the easiest and safest that they possibly can. Katie said, well, thank you. Katie Tallow, whose book we read, Dark August, who's getting reviews like wonderful, crazy, I think was in the New York Times, wasn't it, this Sunday? Katie, and that is a huge, wonderful thing. Anyway, we're all here. We're all happy to be together. We're all delighted to hear this new book, Paris is Always a Good Idea, just out from Berkeley, and we are reading it with the kind permission of Berkeley Penguin Random House and the author, Jenn McKinlay. Everybody's saying they want to go to Paris. Liza Nash Taylor, of course, who knows Paris inside out from her Etiquette for Runaways book that we read a couple of weeks ago. And Jenn McKinlay wants to go back. Hannah wants to go back. We all want to go back. Sharon says she's never listened to an audiobook, and this is the next best thing. Well, Hannah and I are not professional readers. I'm a reporter, and Hannah has the best voice in the world. So we work on this, and we practice, and we do the best we can. And we are so honored that these wonderful authors allow us to the responsibility of reading their first chapters out loud, and that publishers have the confidence in us that we will make them sound good and not ruin them too much. But we are ready to go. Bonner says she's packed and ready to go. AR Mommy says she's packed and ready to go. Liza Nash Taylor says she's packed and ready to go. So that's wonderful, and we will make that happen. We will make that happen. So welcome all of you this morning. Today, again, we're reading from Paris is Always a Good Idea by the marvelous Jenn McKinlay. And let me tell you a little bit about her before we read the first chapter. I'll put on my glasses so I get this completely right. Okay. Welcome to Jenn McKinlay. this morning. Jenn McKinlay is the New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author of several mystery and romance series. I think I counted up from the front matter this morning, and it looks like, Jen, 38, more than that, novels that have been published, which is quite astonishing. So congratulations. Is that right? 38? It's reporters doing math, so how do I know? Anyway, Jenn McKinlay is USA Today, New York Times, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author. She is also the winner of the RT Reviewer's Choice Award for Romantic Comedy and the Fresh 45, Jen is saying, 45 novels. So this is either her 45th or 46th, which is pretty mind-boggling, I have to say, and all of them have been so well received. This is number 45. Congratulations. I think number 45 is the bestseller anniversary, right? I hope so. Anyway, she's also won the Fresh Fiction Award for Best Cozy Mystery. Her work has been translated into multiple languages in countries all over the world. A TEDx speaker, she is always happy to talk books, reading, writing, and the creative process to anyone who cares to listen. She lives in sunny Arizona in a house that is overrun with kids, pets, and her husband's guitars. You know, if you know her from Facebook or from Jungle Red, you know she calls her teenage boys the hooligans, and their escapades are legendary. So I urge you to follow her on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and get to know Jenn and her incredible family. So a little bit about Paris is always a good idea. Now out from Berkeley, you can get it right this instant. Well, not right this instant. You want to hear the first chapter, then go get it. And let me tell you a little bit about this book. And Jen Jumba is saying, if she's not mistaken, Jen is a librarian, which we love also. And that's why some of her books take place in a library. We'll have her, you can ask her about that. Ask her about that in the questions if any of you are librarians or library lovers, as we all are. Jen has the inside scoop on libraries. Jen says she's a retired librarian. It's like being a retired, are you ever a retired librarian? You love libraries and you know about libraries and you know how they work, so you can give us all the scoop. Anyway, without further ado, this has been a lot of ado this morning. Here is a little bit about Paris is always a good idea. A 30-year-old woman retraces her gap year through Ireland, France, and Italy to find love and herself in this hilarious and heartfelt novel. It's been 7 years since Chelsea Martin embarked on her year-long post-college European adventure. Since then, she's lost her mother to cancer and watched her sister marry twice, while Chelsea's thrown herself into her work, becoming one of the most talented fundraisers for the American Cancer Coalition. And with the exception of one annoyingly competent co-worker, Jason Knightley, her status as most successful moneymaker is unquestioned. When her introverted mathematician father announces he's getting remarried, Chelsea is forced to acknowledge that her life stopped after her mother died, and that the last time she can remember being happy, in love, or enjoying her life was on her year abroad. Inspired to retrace her steps to find Colin in Ireland, Jean-Claude in France, and Marcelino in Italy, Chelsea hopes that one of these three men who stole her heart so many years ago can help her find it again. From the start of her journey, nothing goes as planned, but as Chelsea reconnects with her old self, she also finds love in the very last place she expected. And I have to tell you that the latest news is that Paris is always a good idea received a starred review from Publishers Weekly, and listen to this. The reviewer writes, "Readers will have no trouble investing in Chelsea and Jason's enemies to lovers romance. This flawless rom-com is sure to delight." So as I said, Sleepless in Seattle, When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, all those wonderful movies that have touched our heart. This is exactly, you can just picture this as a movie just like that, maybe with Meg Ryan as Chelsea. I don't know, we'll have to ask, you can ask Jen in the comments who she'd like to see playing Chelsea. Hey, Tracy Clark has just joined. All right, so here is some of chapter 1 of Paris is Always a Good Idea. I'm getting married. Huh? We've already picked our colors, pink and gray. Pink and what? Gray. What do you think, Chelsea? I want your honest opinion. Is that too retro? I stared at my middle-aged, widowed father. We were standing in a bridal store in central Boston on the corner of Boylston and Berkeley Streets, and he was talking to me about wedding colors. His wedding colors. I'm sorry, I need a sec, I said. I held up my hand and blinked hard while trying to figure out just what the hell was happening. I had raced here from my apartment in Cambridge after receiving a text from my dad asking me to meet him at this address because it was an emergency. I was prepared for heart surgery, not wedding colors. Suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I wrestled the constricting wool scarf from around my neck, yanked the beanie off my head, and stuffed them in my pockets. I scrubbed my scalp with my fingers in an attempt to make the blood flow to my brain. It didn't help. Come on, Martin, I coached myself. Pull it together. I unzipped my puffy winter jacket to let some air in. Then I focused on my father. What did you say? I asked. Pink and gray, too retro? Glenn Martin, a.k.a. Dad, asked. He pushed his wire-frame glasses up on his nose and looked at me as if he was asking a perfectly reasonable question. No, before that. I waved my hand in a circular motion to indicate he needed to back it all the way up. I'm getting married, his voice went up when he said it, and I decided my normally staid 55-year-old dad was somehow currently possessed by a 20-something bridezilla. You okay, Dad? I asked. Not for nothing, but the last time I checked, he hadn't even been dating anyone, never mind thinking about marriage. Have you recently slipped on some ice and whacked your head? I asked because you don't seem to be yourself. Sorry, he said. He reached out and wrapped me in an impulsive hug, another indicator that he was not his usual buttoned-down mathematician self. I'm just so happy. What do you think about being a flower girl? I'm almost 30. I tried not to look as bewildered as I felt. What was happening here? Yes, but we already have a full wedding party, and you and your sister would be really cute in matching dresses. Maybe something sparkly. Matching dresses? Sparkly? I repeated. I struggled to make sense of his words, and I couldn't. It was clear. My father had lost his ever-loving mind. I should probably call my sister. I studied his face, trying to determine just how crazy he was. The same brown-green hazel eyes I saw in my own mirror every morning held mine, but where my eyes frequently looked flat with a matte finish, his positively glowed. He really looked happy. You're serious, I gasped. I glanced around the bridal store that was stuffed to the rafters with big white fluffy dresses. None of this made any sense, and yet here I was. You're not pranking me? Nope, he grinned again. Congratulate me, Peanut. I'm getting married. I felt as if my chest was collapsing into itself. Never, not once in the past 7 years had I ever considered the possibility that my father would remarry. To who? I asked. It couldn't be. Nah, that would be insane. Really, Chels? Dad straightened up. The smile slid from his face, and he cocked his head to the side, which was his go-to disappointed parent look. I have not been on the receiving end of this look very often in life, not like my younger sister Annabelle, who seemed to thrive on the look. Usually it made me fall right in line, but not today. Sherry? You're marrying Sherry? I tried to keep my voice neutral. Major failure as I stepped backwards, tripped on the trailing end of my scarf, and gracelessly sprawled onto one of the cream-colored velvet chairs that were scattered around the ultra-feminine store. I thought it was a good thing I was sitting, because if he answered in the affirmative, I might faint. Yes, I asked her to marry me, and to my delight she accepted, he said. Another happy, silly grin spread across his lips as if he just couldn't help it. But she won you in a bachelor auction 2 weeks ago, I cried. I closed my mouth before I said more, like pointing out that this was hasty in the extreme. The store seamstress, who was assisting a bride up in the front of a huge trifold mirror, turned to look at us. Her dark hair was scraped up into a knot on the top of her head, and her face was contoured to perfection. She made me feel like a frump in my Sunday no makeup face, which, in my defense, was not my fault, because when I'd left the house to meet Dad, I'd had no idea the address he'd sent was for Bella's bridal. I'd been expecting an urgent care. In fact, I wasn't sure yet that we didn't need one. Glenn Martin, Harvard mathematician and all-around nerd dad, had been coerced into participating in a silver fox bachelor auction for prominent Bostonians by my sister Annabelle to help raise funds for the Boston Children's Hospital. I had gone, of course, to support my sister and my dad, and it had mostly been a total snooze fest. The highlight of the evening being when two socialites got into a bidding war over a surgeon, and the loser slapped the winner across the face with her cardboard paddle. Good thing the guy was a cosmetic surgeon, because there was most definitely some repair work needed on that paper cut. But my father had not been anywhere near that popular with the ladies. No one wanted a mathematician. No one. After several minutes of excruciating silence following the MC trying to sell the lonely gals on my dad's attempts to solve the Rieman's hypothesis, I had been about to bid on him myself when Sherry, a petite brunette, had raised her paddle with an initial offer. The smile of gratitude Dad had sent Sherry had been blinding, and the next thing we knew, a flurry of numbered paddles popped up in the air, but Sherry stuck in there and landed the win for $435.50. 2 weeks is all it took, Dad said. He shrugged and held out his hands like a blackjack dealer, showing he had no hidden cards, no chips, or cash. I stared at him in a look that was equal parts shock and horror. I know it's a surprise, Chels, but when, he began, but I interrupted him. Dad, I don't think a bachelor auction is the basis for a stable, long-lasting relationship. You have to admit it makes a great story, he said. No. I tried to sound reasonable, like this was a math problem about fitting 60 watermelons into a small car. I spread my hands wide and asked, what do you even know about Sherry? What's her favorite color? Pink, duh. He looked at me with a know-it-all expression more commonly seen on a teenager than a grown-ass man. All right, who are you and what have you done with my father? It's still me, Chels, he said. He gazed at me gently. I'm just a happy me for once. Was that it? Was that what was so different about him? He was happy? How could he be happy with a woman he hardly knew? Maybe, oh dear, my dad hadn't circulated much after my mom's death. Maybe he was finally getting a little something, and he had it confused with love. Oh God, how was I supposed to talk about this with him? I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. Parents did this all the time. Surely I could manage it. Heck, it would be great practice if I ever popped out a kid. I opened my eyes. 3 women were standing in the far corner in the ugliest chartreuse dresses I had ever seen. Clearly they were the attendants of a bride who hated them. And that might be me, in sparkly pink or gray, if I didn't stop this madness. Sit down, Dad, I said. I think we need to have a talk. He took the seat beside mine and looked at me with the same patience he'd had when he taught me to tie my shoes. I looked away. I know that you've been living alone for several years, I cleared my throat, and I imagine you've had some needs that have gone unmet. Chels, no, he said, it isn't about that. I ignored him, forging on while not making eye contact, because, Lordy, if I had to have this conversation with him, I absolutely could not look at him. And I understand that after such a long dry spell, you might be confused about what you feel, and that's okay, I said. Jeebus, this sounded like a sex talk by Mr. Rogers. The thing is, you don't have to marry the first person you sleep with after Mom. There, I said it, and my wise advice and counsel was met with complete silence. I waited for him to express relief that he didn't have to get married, and I waited. Finally, I glanced up at my father, who was staring at me the same way he had when I discovered he was actually the tooth fairy. Sherry is not the first, he said. She's not? I was shocked. Shocked, I tell you. No. But you never told me about anyone before, I said. You didn't need to know, he replied. They were companions, not relationships. They? I shouted. I didn't mean to. The seamstress sent me another critical look, and I coughed, trying to get it together. Dad shifted in his seat, sending me a small smile of understanding. Maybe meeting here wasn't the best idea. I thought you'd be excited to help plan the wedding, but perhaps you're not ready. Of course I'm not ready, I said, but you're not either. Yes, I am. Oh, really? Answer me this. Does Sherry prefer dogs or cats? I don't, he blinked. Yes, because it's only been 2 weeks, I said. You remember that lump on your forehead? It took longer than 2 weeks to get that biopsied, but you're prepared to marry a woman you haven't even known long enough for a biopsy. My voice was getting higher, and Dad put out his hands in an inside voice please gesture. I would have tried, but I felt as if I were hitting my stride and making my point. I went for the crushing blow. Dad, do you even know whether she is a pie or cake sort of person? Do you realize you're contemplating spending the rest of your life with a person who might celebrate birthdays with pie? Chills, I know this is coming at you pretty fast, he said. I do, but I don't think Sherry liking pie or cake is really that big of a deal. Who knows? She might be an ice cream person, and ice cream goes with everything. Mom was a cake person, I said. There, I'd done it. I brought in the biggest argument against this whole rushed matrimonial insanity. Mom. My father's smile vanished as if I'd snuffed it out between my fingers like a match flame. I felt lousy about it, but not quite as lousy as I did at the thought of Sherry, oh, but no, becoming my stepmother. Your mother's been gone for 7 years, Chels, he said. That's a long time for a person to be alone. But you haven't been alone, apparently, I protested. Besides, you have me and Annabelle. I do. So why do you need to get married? I pressed. Dad sighed. Because I love Sherry, and I want to make her my wife. I gasped. I felt as if he'd slapped me across the face. Yes, I knew I was reacting badly, but this was my father, the man who had sworn to love my mother until death do they part. But that was the problem, wasn't it? Mom had passed away, and Dad had been alone ever since, right up until he met Sherry Armstrong 2 weeks ago, when she just kept raising her auction paddle for the marginally hot mathematician. I stared at him. The mild-mannered Harvard math professor who had taught me to throw a curveball, ride a bike, and knee a boy in the junk if he got too fresh, had never looked so determined. He meant it. He was going to marry Sherry Armstrong, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. Isn't that so great? This is Jenn McKinlay at her best. I mean, she is droll and funny, but underneath there is that sort of wonderful emotion and honesty and genuine caring and genuine understanding about relationships of fathers and daughters and families and looking for happiness. And Susan is saying she's on the patio laughing out loud. I mean, yeah, this is Jenn at her. Jenn is so witty and so smart and so knowledgeable and such a joy to read. Beth says, I'm a cake person. Pie would be a deal breaker. Yeah, I'd love to. Pie for your birthday. I know that you put the candle in the crust and it would fall apart. I'm not sure that would really work. And Linda Rosen is saying the story pulls at my heartstrings. Pugs and Page is amazing, so fun. It is. Jenn, you are such a rock star. You are such a brilliant author. And the thing about Jenn's writing is that it just feels so seamless. It feels so natural. It feels just as if she's overhearing a conversation or being Chelsea Martin. So we cannot wait to find out what happens. Deborah says, I want more. And Jasmine says, Jenn is my fave, and this book is amazing. Yeah, so you heard it here first, and that was just part of the hilarious first chapter and the beginning of Chelsea Martin's adventures into finding her happiness. again. And what a fun journey to go on. So thank you again, Jenn McKinlay, and thank you for Berkeley Random House for letting us read your fabulous book today. You all go get this book in like 30 seconds. We'll be done, and you go find it. Jenn McKinlay is saying, I love you, Hank. I love you too. And you know that. All right. So fun to read. Paris is always a good idea this Thursday. And on Tuesday, of course, we will have another new book. Look at this gorgeous cover from Linda Rosen. I'm trying to let you see it on Facebook. The Disharmony of Silence. Can you see it? This is always a very high degree of difficulty. It's a beautiful cover, and I want you to notice that, if you can see it, there you go, that cameo on that gorgeous antique cameo. Here I am back on Instagram. That gorgeous antique cameo on the cover of Linda Rosen's The Disharmony of Silence. And that it's a wonderful dual timeline historical mystery. Dual timeline, present and past, which is very lovely. And you will love hearing the first chapter of that on Tuesday. So that would be episode number 84 of First Chapter Fun. So that's pretty amazing. So I know Jenn Jump is saying, dang, even the title, The Disharmony of Silence. And what could that mean? Titles are so amazing. We should talk about that at some time, because Paris is always a good idea. Always, also a really super title. So our time is up. We need to go. You all are fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. We are so thrilled that you joined us today, and hope you will be here on Tuesday for The Disharmony of Silence. Now go right out and buy Jenn McKinlay's book, and then let us know how you like it. We know that you will love it. And until next Tuesday, you know what we're saying. Stay safe, stay kind, and do take care. Love you.